Here's something depressing. The Centers for Disease Control says roughly 1 in 10 Americans today is depressed. The land of opportunity apparently offering a lot of opportunity for misery.
It really started to take hold for me in my 40s. I would have these depressive episodes, and they increased in frequency and in intensity. Like in the middle of Starbucks, in the middle of a Starbucks line, I would just start welling up with tears.
Novelist Louis Byard had no obvious reason to cry. In fact, he seemed to have every reason in the world to be happy.
I was living a really good life by my standards. I was doing the work I wanted to do. I had people to love. I had a nice house. I had all the sort of markers of happiness, right? And it still wasn't sinking in.
Depression has been recognized as a disorder, a medical disorder, since as early as medicine started.
Jerome Wakefield is a professor at the New York University School of Social Work.
Basically, for 2,500 years, there is a tradition in which people have recognized that at times something goes wrong with people's ability to process loss, or it goes wrong where they're just generating sadness in an unstoppable fashion that immobilizes them.
People have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. They have a change in their appetite. Their energy level's low. They start to have a lot of negative thoughts about themselves. It's like wearing a dark pair of glasses.
And more Americans are seeing the world through those glasses, says psychiatrist Richard Friedman at New York's Weill Cornell Medical College.
The rates of depression have been going up over the last several decades in most industrialized nations.
We're talking something like 27 million Americans?
Yes.
Several studies claim rates of depression are 3 times today what they were just 2 decades ago.
If 1 out of 10 people are taking medications and then many other people are feeling it, you've got something that's spread throughout the culture. It used to be called sadness.
But as usual in this complicated field, not everyone agrees. Professor Wakefield says there is no real spike in depression, just a spike in diagnosing it.
What's happened is that the definition of depressive disorder has gotten so generalized, covers so many forms of sadness, that these figures have exploded and encompass many people who are having normal reactions to loss.
When you realize that depression has left you nowhere to go, when you've lost interest in everything.
Wakefield says just turn on the TV and you'll see commercials bent on convincing people that they are depressed.
Depression hurts in so many ways. Sadness, loss of interest, anxiety. Cymbalta can help.
We have direct-to-consumer advertising, where pharmaceutical manufacturers can tell the public, if you experience sadness,
you know when you feel the weight of sadness.
You're unhappy with your child and your spouse, you're not yourself for a period of time.
Things just don't feel like they used to. These are some symptoms of depression.
You should see a physician. You may have X disorder. Now, I'm not saying that these don't have sometimes a good result of certain people who need help going in for help, but it also reshapes our cultural view of what is normal range emotion that individuals can handle and what needs to get medication or needs to get professional help.
So it's no longer acceptable to be sad?
Well, I think we are getting to that point.
And people are taking action, or at least they're taking medication. To put it in perspective, more Americans take antidepressants than go to the movies each week, an estimated 30 million. That's about double what it was just 15 years ago. You'd think we'd all be deliriously happy. But we are not. And University of Pennsylvania psychologist Robert DeRubis may have hit on why. He's co-authored a study in the Journal of the American Medical Association examining how well antidepressants work for mild to moderate cases.
We found that the advantage offered by the medicine over the benefit that came just from the placebo was very small.
So the medication didn't work any better than sugar pills?
Worked on average very little better than sugar pills, that's correct.
Louis Byard was in that mild to moderate group and was prescribed a drug called Lexapro.
I was concerned that it was going to turn me into this smiling zombie of bliss, you know, with a cloud of Disney birds around my head, and I thought it would alter me in some fundamental way.
But in fact, something very different happened. Nothing at all, or so it seemed.
Was there a change?
I don't know. That's the thing. People would ask me that very question. How's it working? I'd be fine, I guess. I don't know.
There wasn't a eureka moment
There
where
was
you
no
said
eureka moment
the gray
where the
is
sun
gone?
burst open into the room.
The answer to the question, do antidepressants work, depends who you give them to. If you give them to people who have sadness but not depression, they aren't going to do anything because they don't have the disease for which the drugs are designed. And in general, if you give them to more severely depressed people, they're highly effective.
But he says, unfortunately, those people, the severe cases, too often don't get help, while the mildly depressed and the just plain sad end up on an antidepressant. One possible problem, 65% of all such prescriptions are written not by psychiatrists, but by primary care doctors.
Who prescribed it?
My primary care physician, or let me correct myself, I went to my primary care physician. She was on vacation that day, so I was prescribed the pill by another doctor in the same practice.
Somebody who knew you?
No, they didn't know me at all. And it was actually the most efficient medical transaction I think I've ever had. I walked in, I said, I've been talking to my therapist, maybe need a pill. And within 20 seconds, I had a prescription for Lexapro. And I think even a prescription for 3 refills after that. So I was ready to roll.
That was 4 years ago. Byard says he feels much better today, but has no idea if Lexapro had anything to do with it.
So, have you stopped taking antidepressants?
That's a very good question, Susan. I am still taking my Lexapro every day. And I ask myself why, because I don't necessarily think the pill works. And I think it's the same reason an agnostic would go to church. Just in case, I'm going to cover my bases.
He's not alone in his uncertainty. Depression today is almost as big a mystery as it was at the dawn of medicine.
So we don't know why people get depressed. We don't know what happens in their brain.
So the answer is we do not know. We are putting drugs into people's bodies that may be helpful, and that's necessary sometimes in medicine. But if you ask, can we say for sure what the mechanism is that caused the depression and by which these drugs are helping, and what the long-term effects if you stay on it for endless years, we just don't know. That's the reality.